Recording in progress.
So last week we went through who did we go through? Nahum, and and then we started on Zephaniah. Or did we do Habakkuk? Habakkuk. Yeah, we finished Habakkuk. And then we started on Zephaniah. These are all prophets that are preaching during those last years of the final four kings. Josiah is king at the moment. He's a really, really good king. He's really, really good. Probably as good as David, if not better, kind of thing. But he's definitely going to be the last one, period. Everything just goes the hell on him mess. And so you've got several prophets that are on the scene at the moment. You've got Jeremiah, you've got Micah, you've got Habakkuk, you've got Zephaniah. We have a few that are going to prophesy in other lands, like Daniel. Daniel's going to prophesy while he's in Babylon. So, but we're going to finish up Zephaniah today, and then I'm going to take y'all into an apocryphal book called Tobit. And I'll explain all that when we get there. I don't put a whole, I don't establish my faith on any of the apocryphal books, but they do make for interesting reading, and they give us kind of an insight into the writer's mindset writing during that time. Tobit's about a family that lived in Nineveh during the Assyrian exile. Okay, so but it really talks about that thought of theodicy. Why does bad happen? God is so good, that kind of thing. So that's what Tobit really kind of makes its function, which is a shame because that can help some of our own understanding of theodicy. Why does bad happen? Why do bad things happen to good people? Or if God is so good, why does evil person? So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to start on Zephaniah today. You can read along in the Bible if you want. Going out like 2 chapters. It only had 3 chapters. And remember, the chapters are, they're arbitrary. They were put there by people later. These were all written as one text.
You talked about a group of, the Bible mentioned a group of prophets that were living in caves and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, that has been going on a long time. There were groups that traveled around.
These minor prophets, some of those prophets?
They could be. They could be kind of those teachers' pence that have branched out on their own. They were the cream of the crop kind of thing. They could have been just simple ones. They could have been individual. But yes, it's very probable that they traveled around in groups of prophets that traveled around. Most of the reason there were several reasons these prophets usually travel around in depth. Number one was safety. There was safety in numbers. Number two, they could teach each other. You learn by someone else's mistake. And there's other reasons. Well, that's kind of one. So here we are in Zephaniah chapter 2, verse 1. Gather together, gather, O shameless nation, before you're driven away like the drifting chaff, before there comes upon you the fierce anger of the Lord, before there comes upon you the day of the Lord's wrath. Seek the Lord, all you humble in the land who do his commands. Seek righteousness, seek humility. Perhaps you may be hidden on the day of the Lord's wrath. You hear some of the New Testament guys say that too. For Gaza shall be deserted, and Ashkelon shall become a desolation. And, Gaza and Ashkelon are in the areas of the Philistines. So Ashdod, same thing. Ashdod people shall be driven out at noon, and Ekron shall be uprooted. So that's completely against the Philistines. Woe, inhabitants of the seacoast, you nation of the Cherethites. The word of the Lord is against you, O Canaan, land of the Philistines, and I will destroy you until no inhabitant is left. And you, O seacoast, shall be pastures, meadows for shepherds, and folds for the flock. So verse 5 starts with that woe. We've got a lot of these woes. Woes are not good unless you're on a horse trying to stop. And then it could be good, it could be bad, it's depending, but this is a woe against the Philistines, against nations in the West, okay? You're gonna see a theme here.
My house gonna grow on the west wind, bro.
Yeah, you can. Well,
Well,
the seacoast shall become the possession of the remnant of the house of Judah, on which they shall pasture, and in the house of Eshkelon they shall lie down at evening. For the Lord their God will be mindful of them and restore their fortunes. So God is the God of everyone. I've heard the taunts of Moab and the revilings of the Ammonites. Now that's against the east now. How they have taunted my people and made boasts against their territory. Therefore, as I live, says the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, Moab shall become like Sodom and the Ammonites like Gomorrah. Ooh, that don't sound good. A land possessed by nettles and salt pits, and a waste forever. The remnant of my people shall plunder them, and the survivors of my nation shall possess them. So they're going to be taken over by the remnant comes back. This shall be their lot in return for their pride. And their pride is that ultimate sin, because they scoffed and boasted against the people of the Lord of hosts. The Lord will be terrible against them. He will shrivel all the gods of the earth, and to him shall bow down, each in its place, all the coasts and islands of the nations. You also, O Cushites, that would be Africa, the southern African nations, or eastern African nations. You also, O Cushites, shall be killed by my sword, and I will stretch out his hand against the north and destroy Assyria. That's pretty obvious, the north. So east or west, east, south, north. And he's got them all. And he will make Nineveh a desolation, a dry waste like the desert. Herds shall lie down in it, every wild animal of the earth. The desert owl and the screech owl shall lodge on its capitals. The owl shall hoot at the window. The raven croak on the threshold, for the needlework will be laid there. Man, is this the exultant city that lives secure and said to itself, I am, and there is no one else? What a desolation has become, a lair for wild animals. Everyone who passes by it hisses and shakes a fist. Okay. Sorry, I thought Jeff and I had to reach out to him. So now we're going to go into the book of Tobit. I want to read a couple of things from this theologian. His name is George W.E. Nicholsburg. About this book, first, it's a multifaceted piece of historical fiction about the sufferings and healing of a pious Israelite and his family. It's one of the most remarkable texts to have survived from Jewish antiquity. In complex ways, it offers precious evidence about the religious, the intellectual, and social worlds of the people of Israel in the last centuries before the Common before AD. And then the story's use of wisdom genres and its repeated assertions that God acts for good, even in adverse circumstances, indicate that the author wishes to encourage readers to trust and hope in the enactment of God's mercy in their personal lives and through the gathering of the diaspora. That the diaspora, if you don't know what that is, that was the Jewish sending out when the Jews were separated and sent out to all the nations. Well, that happened several times, but what brought that back together was 1948. The naming of the nation. That ended the diaspora. And the realization of God's reign over all. Okay? I just wanted to give you all that preview there. We'll get through a few chapters of this today. The book of the words of Tobit, son of Tobiel, son of Hananiel, son of Aduel, son of Gabael, son of Raphael, son of Raguel, of the descendants of Asai, the tribe of Naphtali. Naphtali was one of the 10 that was taken into captivity by the Assyrians. Who in the days of King Shalmaneser of the Assyrians was taken into captivity from Thisbe, which is to the south of Kadesh Naphtali in Upper Galilee. So that gives you an idea of where it was. Okay? Above Asher toward the west and north, Pogor. Boy, that Pogor sounds like something from Lord of the Rings. I, Tobit, walked in the ways of truth and righteousness all the days of my life. I performed many acts of charity for my kindred and my nation who had gone with me in exile to Nineveh, the land of the Assyrians. When I was in my own country, in the land of Israel, while I was still a young man, the whole tribe of my ancestor Naphtali deserted the house of David in Jerusalem. The city had been chosen from among all the tribes of Israel, where all the tribes of Israel should offer sacrifice, and where the temple, the dwelling of God, had been consecrated and established for all generations forever. All my kindred and my ancestral house of Naphtali sacrificed upon all the mountains of Galilee to the calf of King Jeroboam of Israel had erected in Dan and on all the mountains of Galilee. But I alone went often to Jerusalem for the festivals, as it is prescribed for all Israel by an everlasting decree. I would hurry off to Jerusalem with the first fruits of the crops and the firstlings of the flock, the tithes of the cattle, and the first shearings of the sheep. So you can understand a little bit how Judah, the southern kingdom, thrived, while the northern kingdom still struggled, even in the split, is because all of the Jews, well, a lot of the Jews that were living in the north still held to the understanding that they still had to give their tithes and their first fruits and their sacrifices in Jerusalem, regardless of what Jeroboam had set up. This is Dan, but he also set one up in Bethel, which was in the south, right near the southern border of the northern kingdom. I would give these to the priests, the sons of Aaron, at the altar. Likewise, the tenth of the grain, wine, olive oil, pomegranates, figs, and the rest of the fruits to the sons of Levi who ministered in Jerusalem. Also, every 6 years, I would save up a second tenth in money and go and distribute it each year in Jerusalem, giving it to the orphans and widows and to the converts who had taxed themselves for the Israelites. In the third year, I would bring it and give it to them, and we would eat it according to the ordinance decree concerning it in the law of Moses, and according to the instructions of Deborah, the mother of my father Tobiah. For my father had died and left me an orphan. When I became a man, I married a woman, a member of our own family, and by her I became the father of a son, whom I named Tobias.
Yeah. Tobias and himself. Right.
It's okay.
I know where you is.
It's okay. After I was carried away captive to Assyria and came as a captive to Nineveh, every one of my kindred and my people ate the food of the nations, but I kept myself from eating the food of the nations. Sounds like Daniel. Because I was mindful of God with all my heart, the Most High gave me favor and good standing with Shalmaneser, and I used to buy everything he needed. So he became the quartermaster for King Shalmaneser. Until his death, I used to go into Media to buy for him there, and I left in trust bags holding 10 talents of silver with Gabael, the brother of Gabri, in the country of Media. But when Shalmaneser died and his son Sennacherib reigned in his place, Median roads became lawless, and I could no longer travel through Media. In the days of Shalmaneser, I performed many acts of charity to my kindred, those of my people. I would give my food to the hungry and my clothing to the naked. And if I saw the dead body of any of my nation thrown out behind the wall of Nineveh, I would bury it. I also buried any whom King Sennacherib put to death when he came fleeing from Judea in those days of judgment that the king of heaven executed upon him because of his blasphemy. For in his anger he put to death many Israelites, but I would secretly remove the bodies and bury them. So when Sennacherib looked for them, he could not find them. And then one of the Ninevites went and informed the king about me, that I was burying them. So I hid myself. But when I realized that the king knew about me and that I was being searched for to be put to death, I was afraid and ran away. Then all my property was confiscated. Nothing was left of me that was not taken into the royal treasury, except my wife Anna and my son Elias. Wow. Right now we're in a first person. It quickly jumps into a third person. But not 40 days passed before two of Sennacherib's sons killed him. And when they fled to the mountains of Ararat, his son Esarhaddon reigned after him. He appointed a Hykar, the son of my brother Hananiah, over all the accounts of his kingdom, and he had authority over the entire administration. A Hykar interceded for me, and I returned to Nineveh. Now, Ahikar was chief cupbearer, keeper of the signet, and in charge of administration and accounts under King Sennacherib of Syria. So Esarhaddon appointed him as second in command. Now, it's important. A cupbearer That means that he was like the official food taster kind of thing, right? Keeper of the signet ring, that was what was used to enact laws and things. That ring was probably the most important thing in the kingdom.
Sounds like Joseph.
Yeah, very much so. He was my nephew, and so a close relative. In the days of Ezra-Haddon, I returned home, and my wife Anna and my son Tobias were restored to me. At our festival of Pentecost, which is the sacred festival of weeks, so that kind of helps us determine when it was written, okay? Because it wasn't called the festival of weeks for a little while, or Pentecost. You know, there were weird. They had other names, so. A good dinner was prepared for me, and I reclined to eat. When the table had been set for me and an abundance of food placed before me, I said to my son Tobias, "Go, my son, and bring whatever poor person you may find of our kindred among the exiles in Nineveh, who is wholeheartedly mindful of God, and he shall eat together with me. I will wait for you, my son, until you come back." So Tobias went to look for some poor person of our kindred. When he had returned, he said, "Father," and I replied, "Here I am, my son." Then he went on to say, "Look, father, one of our own nation has been killed and thrown into the marketplace, and now he lies there strangled." Then I sprang up, left the dinner before even tasting it, and removed him from the square and laid him in one of the outbuildings at my home until sunset, when I might bury him. When I returned, I washed myself and ate my food in sorrow. Then I remembered the prophecy of Amos, how he said against Bethel, "Your festivals shall be turned in the morning, and all your songs into lamentation." And I wept. When the sun had set, I went and dug a grave and buried him. And my neighbors laughed and said, "Is he still not afraid? He has already been hunted down to be put to death for doing this, and he ran away. Yet here he is again, burying the dead." That same night, I washed myself and went into my courtyard and lay down by the wall of the courtyard. My face was uncovered because of the heat. I did not know that there were sparrows on the wall. Their fresh droppings fell into my eyes and produced white mills.
Wow.
I went to physicians to be healed, but the more they treated me with ointments, the more my vision was obscured by the white films until I came completely blind. For 4 years, I remained unable to see. All my kindred were sorry for me, and Ahicar took care of me for 2 years before he went to Elimas. At that time, my wife Anna earned money at women's work. She would use to send what she made to the owners, and they would pay wages to her. One day, the 7th of Dishras, when she cut off a piece she had woven and sent to the owner, they paid her full wages and also gave her a young goat for a meal. When it came toward me, the goat began to bleat. So I called her and said, "Where did you get this goat? It is surely not stolen, is it? Return it to the owners, for we have no right to eat anything stolen." But she said to me, "It was given to me as a gift in addition to my wages." But I did not believe her and told her to return it to the owners. Stupid man. I became flushed with anger against her over this. Then she replied to me, "Where are your acts of charity? Where are your righteous deeds? These things are known about you." Then with much grief and anguish of heart, I wept. And with groaning, I began to pray, "You are righteous, O Lord, and all your deeds are just. All your ways are mercy and truth. You judge the world. And now, O Lord, may you be mindful of me and look favorably upon me. Do not punish me for my sins or for my unwitting offenses or for those of my ancestors. They sinned against you and disobeyed your commandments. So you gave us over to plunder, exile, and death, to become the talk, the byword, and an object of reproach among all the nations among whom you have dispersed us. And now your many judgments are true in dealing with me according to my sins. For we have not kept your commandments and have not walked in accordance with truth before you. So now deal with me as you will. Command my spirit be taken from me so that I may be released from the face of the earth and become dust. For it is better for me to die than to live, because I have had to listen to undeserved insults, and great is the sorrow that attends me. Command, O Lord, that I be released from this distress. Release me to go to the place of eternity, and do not, O Lord, turn your face away from me. For it is better for me to die than to see so much distress in my life, and better not to listen to insult. Again, this word, right 16 there, release me to go to the place of eternity. That was the word eternity was not, the concept wasn't there in Jewish times, or in ancient Jews. That kind of gives us an idea of when it was written. On the same day at Matana in Medea, it also happened that Sarah, the daughter of Raguel, was reproached by one of her father's female slaves. For she had been married to 7 husbands, and the wicked demon Asmodeus had killed each of them before they had been with her as is customary for wives. So the female slave said to her, "You are the one who kills your husbands. See, you have already been married to 7 husbands and have not borne the name of a single one of them. Why do you beat us? Because your husbands are dead? Go with them. May we never see a son or daughter of yours." Overcome with emotion at that time, she went up to her father's upper room, intending to hang her. But she thought it over and said, "Let no one ever reproach my father," saying to him, "You had only one beloved daughter, and she hanged herself out of distress. I would bring my father in his old age down by sorrow to Hades. It is better for me not to hang myself, but to beg the Lord that I may die, so that I will not have to listen to these reproaches for the rest of my life." So you've got 2 family members that are separated a little distance away from each other that are both contemplating being killed by God, by divine intervention. At that same time, with her hands outstretched toward the window, she prayed and said, "Blessed are you, merciful God. Blessed is your name forever. Let all your works bless you forever. And now my face is toward you, and I have raised my eyes. Command that I be released from the earth and not listen to such reproaches anymore." So they're praying the same prayer. Don't let me listen to these insults. "You know, O Master, that I am innocent of any defilement with a man, and that I have not disgraced my name or the name of my father in the land of my exile. I am my father's only child. He has no other child to be his heir, and he has no close relative or other kindred for whom I should keep myself as wife. Already 7 husbands of mine have died. Why should I still live? But if it is not pleasing to you, O Lord, to take my life, hear me in my disgrace." At that very moment, the prayers of both of them were heard. Glorious presence. So Raphael was sent to heal both of them. Boy, he made me new circle. Tobit, by removing the white films from his eyes so that he might see God's light with his eyes, and Sarah, daughter of Raguel, by giving her in marriage to Tobias, son of Tobit, and by setting her free from the wicked demon Asmodeus. For Tobias was entitled to have her before all others who had desired to marry. At the same time that Tobit returned from the courtyard into his house, Sarah, daughter of Raguel, came down from her room. Okay. So God is putting things in motion that neither side knew what was going on. It is very, very similar to Jacob searching for a wife and, going to family members to help them. I've got a funny story. I didn't put it in my book, but maybe if I do another book, I'll write the story there. But my aunt, Janice, and some of her friends went to Wimberley and Mount Pleasant. I'm sorry, not Wimberley, Winnsboro and Mount Pleasant up in northeast Texas to look for potential husbands. Well, guess where my family is from? Winnsboro, Mount Pleasant. They were going amongst their own family looking for new husbands. Just the way things work, I guess. Okay, so we're done today. Yeah, I made it a little short today because we had some changes to the service schedule.
God is good.
God is good all
No, bias. Mean
God is good. So we're going to be in Tobit for the next few weeks. It's not a long book. It's 14 chapters, but so we know we kind of read. This was chapters 1 and 2, but we've read kind of the last page of the book. What they've done is they told you what's going to happen. Now we're going to go back and we're going to see how that happened. Okay, we're going to see how the marriage came about. We're going to see these things, how the eyes were healed. Raphael, by the way, you see it here. Tobit gives instruction to his son, money left in trust with Gabriel, which we already heard about. The angel Raphael, so this is another name to angel. In our own canon, our own biblical canon, there's only 2 named It's Michael.
Michael,
and
yeah,
Gabriel.
Gabriel.
Right? But in the Apocrypha, we actually have two other names, Raphael and Uriel. And of course, we have several demons there, Asmodeus here. But we also, in our canon, we have a legion. That's
Was Moroni a demon or a man?
No.
well, that's in the Book of Mormon. We're not dealing.
For burying people, so they bury their own people.
What's that?
What did he go do for burying people?
Well, you've got a king who is killing people and throwing them out in the street. Why do you think he would have done that? To make a point. To discourage,
Maybe not.
possibly, but remember, he's throwing them outside the wall.
It's terrorists.
Um,
It was virgin.
maybe, yeah, the wild animals and any visitors coming into Nineveh would see, oh, don't screw around. You know, I say I like to think, but also I hope that that's not the case, that the seven husbands of Sarah, that, you know, it's possible, you know, probably remote, but it's possible that they were some of those that were killed for purposes of, you know, terror or, you know, trying to make a point or, you know, something. Anyway, so, yeah, so next week, we're gonna hear about Tobit giving instruction to his son, that those instructions are to go and find a wife. Money left in trust with Gabriel, that is for Tobias's future. The angel Raphael is going to travel with him. Journey to Rages, you know, journey to Rages, you know, I see that and see Journey to Rages, and I'm thinking, oh, they must have gotten on I-45. But Rages is the name of the town. And then Raphael, or I heard it, or Raphael's instructions for him, the arrival at the home of Raguel and the marriage. So we're gonna be out to marriage. So anyway, any questions, any concerns, criticisms, complaints, comments,
I'm confused.
anything on a C or Q?
It's historical fiction, you said.
It's historical
Made up
fiction.
story. It's a creative writing.
It was probably written first century BCE or to first century AD. And if you keep that in mind, that's 300 to 400 years after the events that it's talking. And that would be like me writing a book about something that happened in the 1600s. You know, the Pilgrims. It would be like me writing in first person about my journey on the Navy. Okay. So, you know, it's obvious I wasn't there.
You were the captain was on. You were the captain on the Mayflower.
Well, if I wrote like Tobit did, then, you know, I would be the master deckhand. You know, I'd be in charge of all the work. Kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a whip.
So, well, if there are no questions, I'm gonna just release everybody and say bye. And
Bye.
the story gets more interesting. You know, who would have thought that bird droppings would come out of nowhere and blind it? You know, I'm gonna go ahead and close this out. I'll tell you a story.